Of course, for me, what I would say to a high school startup or entrepreneur, dreamer, is that you're going to have your head and your heart in the game here. Something that they're not going to teach you as far as your heart goes in relation to business is how to network and to connect with people. At the end of the day, there's no books written on this. You have to have a good solid handshake and know how to connect with your customers. I think that's ultimately where your money's going to come from anyways. And so learning how to connect with people and tapping into multiple avenues and communities to draw that in. On a business standpoint, I go back to the lesson that I learned from when I was much younger, and that's the value of a dollar. Understand where your dollar is going to go and how you're going to allocate that, and profit margins, and then look at that and then understand the time, the amount of time it goes into that, and what is your time worth to you in the whole grand scheme of things. And so that would be my best advice I would give to a high school student.
For a high school student, I think that really school is an incredible way to learn how to learn, and from there you have to learn everything else on your own. So it only teaches you how to learn. I'm really opinionated about this subject, so it's hard for me to answer this without bias, but I went through college, University of Florida, and I wouldn't change anything. I would still spend the money on a college education, but I'm not using my degree at all. I simply did it as a way to continue learning and find how to learn in the future on my own. It's my morning ritual. I drink about 40 ounces of coffee out of a modified Technivorm every morning before I even leave the house. And then I practice daily fasting, so I generally don't start eating until I've cupped the batches from the day. So like 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon is when I start eating, only after I've tasted the coffees, so that I have an unaltered palate when I'm tasting the coffees, to look for defects in the roasting process, defects in the coffee. Makes it a lot easier. If you have any fats or oils in your mouth when you're tasting them, it's going to affect the way you perceive them. So that also gives me this enormous energy boost at the end of the day, so when I come home to my kids, I still have energy to play at the park and make dinner. So I have an unusual routine, but it works really well for me.
I love that.
It's discipline.
And right, and my morning ritual is actually the exact opposite of Eric's, because as a mompreneur, I don't have time to try and see what works or what tastes great and all that, which I can definitely appreciate the art. However, for me, I actually brew my coffee the night before, and I let it cool down, and I make iced coffee first thing in the morning so that I can tend to my kids, I can answer emails right away, and just get going right away. So it's not the most ideal, but in the grand scheme, this is what I need to do right now in order to make my life work.
Awesome.
I talked earlier about why it was important not to just focus on coffee or the caffeine portion of the business, but how to include the fair side of things. And the fair was to give something to everyone. We have a huge community here dedicated to gluten-free, dairy-free, vegan, vegetarian. The millennials are...
That sounds fair.
Yeah, that sounds pretty fair. And so we wanted to make sure that we tapped into everyone and we welcomed everyone here. There was something for you to customize. You don't want cheese, you want this kind of cheese, you want this bread. There's just so many endless options. And the best part about that is it's all in this tiny little space here. So if you come into our store, you'll look, we switch out our deli case. That's our specialty because we're actually cooking in here. And so we're making different kinds of bakes and pastries and parfaits and overnight oats and chia seed puddings that sound so fancy, but they're actually easy and they're good for you. So there's a huge emphasis on nutrition as well. And then our core menu, which is here all the time, that started just with the plain order of toast with your tea to something a little bit more exotic, like a customized breakfast sandwich, lox, bagels, and then we tapped in to a little bit trendier items like boxes, something just a little different like quinoa, different avenues of proteins, as well as our protein bowls. This was a derivative of acai bowls that everybody is well known to, but we've made it a little bit more relative around here. So we have an addicting chocolate nut butter bowl, and we even have another berry bowl that has beets in it, just things you wouldn't think about that we've paired so well together.
So I have another point about my like core philosophy on business.
Sure.
So it was the first or second question, I think. But doing one thing and doing it better than anybody else. I have to remind myself on a regular basis because I've made a lot of mistakes, many mistakes in 5 years of owning my business. And one of them would be argon cold brew. So although it's an incredible product, I love doing it. It's not my core business. So we created an entirely new way to carbonate coffee that doesn't affect the flavor. So we use argon, we don't use nitrogen. We also created a really unique way to do it without preservatives or pasteurization, which we have a patent on and nobody else has done in the coffee industry. So it detracted from my core business. We went into canning. We actually canned coffee and tea as well with liquid argon. And all of those things are tangents from our core business of selling whole bean coffee, specifically to coffee shops and restaurants. So I fall into the same trap. We have a lot of fads and trends in the coffee industry, and it's a dynamic and volatile industry. So it's really easy to get caught in all these traps. So having that is a reminder, constantly reminding yourself to just focus on what makes you money is absolutely essential to running a business.
Budgeting is huge. Budgeting is huge. Knowing where and when to spend your money and the products you want to invest in, what that product is going to attract to your business and how it's going to do is huge. There's not one simple equation to any of this, really. It's just going for it, doing it, definitely having an understanding of the industry, and then modernizing it to make sure that everyone in the community is welcomed, involved, and that, like I said from the very beginning, is learning when to be flexible and when to stand rigid is huge. But if you're not doing something that scares you a little bit, then I don't think you're a true entrepreneur. Got to do a little something that scares you. You're doing something right if you're a little scared. Right. Like you're passionate and you've got the confidence, but then you're still a little scared. Your artwork's on the wall. That's how I've been talking about this coffee shop. I feel like it's been a compilation of, neither of our backgrounds is in business. We're both science-based individuals, and so biochem, and you were.
I was actually marketing. But
oh, what are you? Oh, wait, you like
ichthyology as well.
But you also like, ichthyology, okay.
Marketing and ichthyology.
I thought you wanted to go into marine biology though, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
So he wanted to go into marine biology. I actually double majored in biochem, and so it has nothing to do with business, but we have passions, and we've been places and, outside of the business world that have now been compilated and brought into this little place. And so it's artwork on the wall, really, for me anyways, but it's scary and exciting at the same time.